How about a Jewish false messiah story so crazy it inspired a future British prime minister to write a novel about the medieval attempt to restore Jews to Jerusalem? The false messiah in question is David Alroy, who was born in the 1100s in the city of Ahmadiyya, modern-day Kurdistan. He was educated by his father, himself a false messiah, and by Shemuel ben Ali, the greatest Middle Eastern rabbi of the time. The Middle East in the 1100s was plagued by the Crusades, and the Abbasid Caliphate was in shambles. Unhappy about living under Islam and upset that the Christians were trying to conquer Jerusalem, David Alroy started an uprising where he promised to lead an army of Jews back to Jerusalem to take it themselves. Since he was himself going to be the king, this uprising took on a messianic character. A king who conquers and restores the Jews to Jerusalem is pretty much the definition of a messiah. There are a bunch of tales about David Alroy, including ones where he does some pretty wild supernatural magic stuff, including escaping the Sultan's prison, basically walking on water, turning invisible, and traveling huge distances in short time periods. He was like the Flash, Jesus, and Harry Potter all in one. He also gathered his followers in his hometown of Ahmadi, pretending to be there to study the Talmud, but actually there to conquer it. I'm here to do two things: kick ass and study Talmud. And I'm all out of Talmud. He was eventually betrayed and assassinated, ending his divine mission to return to Jerusalem. But according to Samuel al-Maghribi, the Jews of Kurdistan and much of Iran continued to believe in David Alroy's messianic status for many years. And he was popular in medieval Central Asia, in Azerbaijan. He was also apparently very hot, which really seems to help these messiahs gain followers. Now here's where it gets extra crazy. 700 years later, in 1833, a British author named Benjamin Disraeli, who was born to a mostly Sephardic Jewish family, read about David Alroy in the journals of a medieval traveler, and was so inspired that he wrote an entire novel about it. This novel is called The Wondrous Tale of Alroy. And I'm not joking, it was written by Benjamin Disraeli, who 40 years later became the Prime Minister of England. I read the book, and it's weird. The author makes up a lot of stuff to fill in the story, and it's really a sensationalized romantic novel, not a historical one. It reflects more about 19th century England than 12th century Kurdistan. Disraeli places Alroy as Hamadani and as the ex-large descendant from King David himself, thus bolstering the messianic claim, creates a love interest out of the caliph's daughter Shirin, and adds Jewish wizards and magical objects. This literary version of Alroy is executed in Baghdad, though the real one was likely killed in his sleep in Kurdistan. What's crazy is that as the Prime Minister of England, Benjamin Disraeli's ideas and novels may have later inspired the British Empire's acceptance of the Balfour Declaration. So in some way, even though David Alroy, the Kurdish messiah from the 1100s, died before he could lead the Jews back to Jerusalem, his tale might have eventually contributed to the Jews returning to Jerusalem, a city which now has over 100,000 Kurdish Jews. So maybe David Alroy was the Mashiach? Shabtai Tzvi, Shmabtai Tzvi. Dude didn't even get beheaded for his own people.